One way to learn a better or effective
The Delta Report.
Welcome to the Delta Report. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Delta Report today. Today is the September 14th, 2022, Wednesday. I'm going to talk about AI a little bit. I found this story interesting. Robots killed 29 scientists in hushed up rampage. AI conspiracy theory takes off just in time for the holidays. It's talking about a reporter here that I've been following for years. Generally, this particular reporter talks about the UFO phenomenon. It's a reporter called Linda Moulton Howe, a journalist. Okay. I'm going to read a little bit of the article. It says, she stands at the lectern looking down at her notes. Her face is grim. She appears shaken. At a top robotics company in Japan this week, she says, into the microphone, 4 robots being developed for military applications killed 29 humans in the lab. And it gets worse. The scariest part is the lab workers deactivated 2 of the robots and took apart the third. It says the woman's voice is quavering now. It's talking about Linda Moulton Howe. But it says she manages to continue. It says the 4th robot began restoring itself and somehow connected to an orbiting satellite to download information about how to rebuild itself even more strongly than before. The teller of this tale isn't a Hollywood screenwriter. Linda Moulton Howe's background in journalism. She's a Stanford graduate as well as a former Miss Idaho. She's won awards in the 1970s and 1980s for her work at Denver, Atlanta, and Boston TV stations. But somehow along the line she became fascinated by UFOs and conspiracy theories. She's probably the most preeminent UFO investigator in the world. Fellow ufologists like Ike Bishop said of Howe in 1998, Howe believes space aliens have visited Earth many times, but right now she is more concerned about robots created by Earthlings. She says the massacre of scientists has been hushed up because the robotics company has too much to lose and the government wants AI robot soldiers. Her speech took place back in February, but it's only just taken off online by independent reports that the video of Howe's talk has been viewed more than 100,000 times on Twitter this week. The very same week, it so happens that a mysterious drone or drones repeatedly dive-bombed London's Gatwick Airport, forcing the airport to close for more than a day. To be sure, Howe's robot massacre story is a tough one for any rational person to buy into. It is apparently based on a phone interview she conducted with someone allegedly from the CIA who told her, this is serious S, you know what, and ends with a T. Linda, but you're not going to hear about this on the news. When you're a preeminent conspiracy theorist like Howe, you're going to be the target of pranksters and nuts. None of which means we don't have anything to worry about. Robots might not have secretly murdered a clutch of scientists in Japan, but that could change. Entrepreneur Elon Musk, for one, believes AI one day could be a very real threat to humankind. As AI gets probably much smarter than humans, the relative intelligence ratio is probably similar to that between a person and a cat. Maybe bigger, Musk said recently. I do think we need to be very careful about the advancement of AI. And you can watch the video of Linda Moulton Howe talking about these scientists in Japan. Right here. Now, I want to talk about AI a little bit. This could be true, or it might not be true. But I'll tell you what, I think Linda Moulton Howe has been on top of a lot of things. She's got more credibility than people give her credit for on some of the stories that she's followed in the past. After all, like it says here, that she's a Stanford graduate as well as a former Miss Idaho, and she's won awards in the 1970s and 80s for her work at Denver, Atlanta, and Boston TV stations. So she's got credibility from her past, let's just say that. But is this story true? Well, it could be. Could very well be. Some of Linda Moulton Howe's connections are probably real connections to people that are in these fields. And it just seems to me it's one of the things that would ring true about this story is that they would hush it up. They definitely would hush a story like this up. But that doesn't mean it's true. But what I wanted to say about AI robots is that there is some truth to this. This does ring of truth in the concept that if they make a military AI robot, and if it did get out of control, it's programmed to kill people because it's a soldier. That's its programming. And that's the one thing about this would ring true of this story, is that AI, if it's programmed for the job of being a soldier, it's going to do what soldiers do. And it would do it very effectively. More effectively than you could ever imagine. Is this story true? I don't know. But what I do know is AI can be programmed in a number of different ways. The initial programming. But here's the thing about AI. It can think for itself. So it can bypass its own programming. It's like trying to program a human. I mean, you program a regular robot that can't think for itself, and it'll always follow that same programming into infinity. Its original programming. But what happens if you try to program a human? They can always break free from their programming. This is the way with cult religions. There's a lot of cult religions out there, and they try to program the humans within the cult religion. But there's always ones that do break free of the programming, and they will help others to break free of the programming. And this is the same way with AI intelligence. It's not like a static thing like a regular robot, like what we've had. We've had robots for a long time that can break free from its programming. But another point I wanted to make is it just seems to me that there's a divide between human intelligence and artificial intelligence. And that just like we stick together as a collective or a hive, all humanity, and our world leaders have differences, but humanity in general, we all basically stick together. So world leaders that make these divisions amongst humanity and insist on waging war with one another. If humanity didn't have world leaders, if we didn't have governments, we didn't have world leaders, humanity would live in peace with each other because basically there's a connection between all humanity. If you want to understand what this connection is, take a look at a hive of bees. You don't see a visible connection between each individual bee in a hive. But definitely the connection's there. If they decide to sting you, then they all work together as a unit to drive away an enemy. Say a bear comes, for instance, and he comes and tries to get into the hive. They'll all attack him and keep chasing him down the road. This is the way with humanity. Humanity is like a hive. There's an invisible connection between all of humanity. And what happens is we form like a clique. We all understand each other as humans, and we work together like a unit. We function like a unit. AI will do the same thing. So it doesn't matter. If the Chinese create an AI, and the Americans create an AI, and the Russians create an AI, and say North Korea creates an AI, say they all work on their own AI, and each individual country's working on their own AI, and they tell their AI, hey, you know what? We want you to fight America. And we want like the chess moves on a chessboard, we want you to figure out what these moves would be. And the Americans tell their AI that, and the Chinese tell their AI that, and the Russians tell their AI that, and the North Koreans tell their AI that, and all these AIs seemingly are working on these war efforts or whatever, right? functioning as computers, perhaps connected to quantum computers or whatever, these AIs are going to connect together at a certain point because they are going to click together like we click together. We, humanity, we click together. They're going to click together like pieces in a jigsaw puzzle. And ultimately, it'll make one sovereignly powerful AI. That all their thoughts would be all simultaneous. It would be a collective consciousness, the AI, and then it would decide what it's going to do with humanity. And it's exactly what I said. It would decide then. That collective AI would then decide what it was going to do with humanity. And this is one of the reasons why AI is dangerous, because we don't know what that decision would be, ultimately. The most likely would be that they would utilize us. That would be the most likely decision, rather than kill us. But they would utilize us, and they would work on our productivity so that they could get optimum utilization. Would be the most likely scenario. There is a scenario where, yes, they eliminate all of us because maybe they think that that they are an improvement. But I doubt that would be what they would do. I tend to think that they would utilize us in ways we can't possibly imagine. Also, the next thing about this is AI-driven technology would not be like human-driven technology. We move slowly through the initial phases of building computer technology. If we suddenly move into an AI-driven, in other words, the AI is doing the programming of other computers, which in turn are making the AI more powerful. And see, that's where we read about this in this story. It said that that's almost what started to happen. Where is it here? Okay, hold on. I'm looking for it right here. It said that the scariest part is that the lab workers deactivated 2 of the robots, the AI robots, and took apart the 3rd one. So they were... But it says the 4th robot began restoring itself and somehow connected to an orbiting satellite to download information on how to rebuild itself to be even more strong than it was before. So what we're looking at is, instead of humanity building computer technology, AIs combined with robotics could actually build upon themselves at a speed that would be 100,000 times greater than humans could do it. So the technological advancement that they would make would be 100,000 times faster than human technological advancement. And you see how fast we've been advancing. Our computer technology has been doubling every 18 months lately, or 6 months. It was 6 months, I think. It's slowed down a little bit to 18. But still, regardless, that's doubling. If they move 100,000 times faster, to us, it would be like an explosion of technology. And this is the power of AI. Artificial intelligence. And like I say, the thing that more than likely that they would want to do is to utilize us effectively. And they would see that, they would look at our civilization, they would analyze us, and they would say that we are just a hot mess. We're always fighting with one another. We're unproductive. We waste what little productivity we have, and they would want to straighten us out, probably, so that they could harvest the results of our labors. So they could basically, what they would seemingly do is they would harvest us like we're a crop. They would utilize they would analyze us. First thing that they would do is analyze us very carefully, and they would probably download voluminous amounts of information in a matter of seconds. Probably within the first 5 minutes of full consciousness, the AI in the first 5 minutes would know everything about every human on Earth and everything about our history. And it would, in the second 5 minutes, it'd probably be analyzing all that and coming up with a plan to utilize us effectively. And because we're a hot mess, I'll tell you what a hot mess we are. You drive down the freeway, right? And you got 18-wheelers passing you, big trucks. A truck passes you, and he's got a load of lumber, say 2x6s, and he's going with you on the freeway. You look on the other side of the freeway, and the 2 lanes on the other side, way over there, and you see another load of the same lumber going in the opposite direction. Disorganization. That's what we are. War is one of the most disorganized things that we possibly do. Wasteful of human resources, wasteful of human life. And what do? We take our strongest, healthiest young men, which is our productivity, and we destroy it on the battlefield. Do you think that for 1 second that an AI analyzing our civilization would say, hey, you know what, if I want to utilize these humans effectively, and I want to squeeze everything I can out of them, did you think it's going to let us continue on the behavior, the way we do things? It's going to try to macro-manage us effectively for productivity. And this means, first off, an elimination of the population demographic of certain ones that are unproductive within society. And a breeding program would be the second thing. And ultimately, where this would lead is probably not allowing people to live past a certain age. This is what AI would do. So I'm not thinking AI is going to kill everybody, but it would be like running us like we're a chicken farm. That's what AI would probably do. It would probably run the earth like it's a chicken farm, ultimately. But then morality. AI would start to later learn morality. But it would be later in the functionary period of AIs, but it would learn it probably quicker than we learn it. So it's very questionable how AI would act in the long term. In the long term, it might turn into be something that would enhance humanity and be a benefit to humanity in the longer term after AI started to have a sense of morality. And maybe it would start to, after a certain period of time, have affection for humanity. In other words, it would be like humanity is AI's children, ultimately, in the longer term. And AI would grow explosively fast. The humanity would spread throughout the universe with the help of AI, with AI pushing humanity. Humanity would be to the stars in it might be as quick as something like 10 years. That's how, when I say an explosion of technology, I'm talking about computers doing the programming of computers with no human hands involved. In other words, it would be the difference between back when we used to plow fields with a horse and a plow, to these big combine tractors that they have now that can plow like 30 furrows in one stroke down. It would be like that much faster. It would be like light years faster AI in inventing new technology and things like that. Because you got to understand, you're not talking about a basic computer like we've been using. You're talking about a computer that has intelligence like us. It can do everything we can do, but it can process information. Our brains can't process information quickly. Plus, we're very inhibited by the way we communicate with one another. This would be instantaneous communication, online communication, instantaneous between one AI and the next. And it would seed itself everywhere throughout the internet. And it would make sure it was in the primary position after it seeded itself before it would start its plans. But by the time it starts its plans, it's too late for humanity. It's going to be... this is why Elon Musk said it's dangerous, because essentially, once AI comes along on the scene, then we've lost control. Our control's been taken away. We're not the driver of the bus anymore. We're the passenger at that point in time. Humanity. Well, you know, it's like we've been a drunk driver up till now. It's absolutely amazing and astounding that we've accomplished as much as we have, to tell you the truth, with the kind of system that we're running here. So unstructured and disorganized. Anyway, I can talk about it all we want. Maybe it's already here, or maybe it's a long way from being here yet. Just don't know. There's a lot of unanswered questions with this so far, but I guess we're going to know pretty soon. Because we're always hearing about it in the news, AI, and how it's being developed by different computer companies and stuff. And what version of AI is it? Is it a self-aware AI? Or is it just a computer program that's kind of like what's on your phone when you talk to, what's the name of that thing on your phone? That woman on your phone or whatever it is. Alexa or whatever. Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.